everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing very well today. So today's video, as promised, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 3 palettes in each category. So this video was first created by Angelica Nyqvist. However, I was inspired to do this video by It's Just Steph. I constantly watch her here on YouTube. She's one of my favorite subscribers, or she's one of my favorite YouTubers. I wish she was one of my subscribers. How awesome would that be? But anyways, It's Just Steph is the one that inspired me. However, like I said, I think Angelica Nyqvist is the original creator. So I will be sure to link both of their channels down below, as well as all of these palettes that I'm about to talk about. So some of the links may be affiliated. If you choose to shop those links, I do receive a small commission, and I appreciate you so much, and I thank you for supporting my channel. However, there is no pressure to use the links. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. We have a variety of different categories here that the palettes will be categorized under, and I'm so excited to share with you my top 3. And I'm so sorry, by the way, if you hear my bracelet jingling throughout this entire video. I just wanted to wear this. I wanted to feel festive. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be looking at my phone periodically because that is where I have the different categories. I will also try to link down below, not link, but list down below the different categories in case you want to answer these questions in the comments, or in case you're a creator yourself and you want to do this video also. So first up, we do have top neutral palettes, and for this category, I have a mixture of indie as well as a more mainstream brand. So firstly, I have the Adept Cosmetics Flying Fiddles palette. This palette is definitely more of a neutral palette with a twist, and however, I still view this one as a neutral palette. I think Adept really does shine with the shimmers. Their mattes can sometimes be a little bit finicky. However, I have had zero issues with this palette specifically. So this one I had to mention because I have been dying to reach for this over and over and over again because it is so beautiful. But I have been dying to reach into this one ever since I got it, and it is just such a stunning palette. And I love that this is an indie brand, but that they created a more neutral palette. I feel like indie palettes tend to be more colorful, and the fact that this one is more neutral is just amazing. So I definitely had to list the Adept Cosmetics Flying Fiddles palette as one of my top neutral palettes. Next up is another indie palette, and it is the Sydney Grace Loves Journey palette. This is the palette that I actually named last year as one of my top 3s, and I still stand by that. This palette looks very boring up close. However, when applied to the eyes, it is absolutely stunning. Do I have red on my teeth again? No, okay. However, whenever applied to the eyes, it is absolutely stunning. I actually wore this on Thanksgiving, and I thought that the look was so beautiful. I love that this is a really nice go-to neutral formula for me, or neutral color story, but also that the formula is so good. Sydney Grace is very well known for how good their eyeshadow palette formula is, and this palette is no exception to that. It is just so stunning, and I love the metallics, I love the mattes. I feel like you can create pretty much any type of neutral look that you would want. It is just absolutely beautiful, and on the eyes, it's even more breathtaking. So this is a second time winner in the top 3 neutral palette category. And then finally, probably my favorite Natasha Denona palette. I know, I'm so sad that my Viva palette has officially been dethroned, but time has gone on, and there are so many other palettes that have come out since then, and the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude is definitely that girl for me. This palette is beautiful. This is definitely a neutral lover's dream when it comes to eyeshadow. I love that this is a neutral palette, but again, it has some glitzy and glam to it, so it's not just going to be like a boring neutral palette. This is going to give you some of that sparkle, some of that shine, which I really do feel like elevates a look so that it's not just browns on your eyes, if you know what I mean. And I love the feature of like taupes in here as well. So this is probably my favorite Natasha Denona palette just because of how beautiful this translates onto the lids. And it is just it definitely had to be in the top 3 for sure. Now we have top colorful palettes, and these are all indie palettes. So 2024, and let me know if you would like to see a video on this, but 2024 has seriously been the year of indie eyeshadow for me. I have experienced or experimented with so many new brands this year. I've tried Bella Beauté Bar, I've tried Gourmand Girls. I'm about to try DD Signature. I just purchased their Fearless Holiday palette. I've tried Cosmic Brushes. Inslee Rain at the very beginning of the year, I did try them. I feel like there's another brand that I'm not thinking of. Anyways, I have tried, Kaima Cosmetics. I have tried so many new indie brands this year and so many new indie eyeshadow palettes. And a lot of my categories, a lot of my palettes are going to be indie palettes because I have just fallen in love with so many of those. And so for my top colorful palettes, this one is the Fantasy Cosmetica, and this is the Harvest of Souls palette. Whenever they released this palette, I instantly drooled over this color story. First off, the packaging is very beautiful, and then the inside is even more pretty. Look at this color story. I love these colors. Something about these colors, the fact that they're muted, but they're still very impactful on the lids. They're still bold. I just love this color story. I feel like the purples and the blues and the greens go so well together. I've only unfortunately used this palette once because it's relatively new to me. I got it maybe within the last month because I kind of waited a little bit to get it because I wanted to make sure that I really did want it. And I'm so glad that I got it because I loved the look that I created with this one. So this is definitely one of my top colorful palettes in my collection because this color story is to die for. Like, I literally drool over this every time I open it up and look at it. The next palette is easily one of my top colorful palettes in my collection. It's another one from Adept Cosmetics. This is the Legend of Ardra palette. And this one was insanely limited edition. And this is gonna sound so silly, but I kind of purchased this accidentally. And this is gonna sound so bad. I promise I'm not like this usually, but I had this in my cart because I was highly considering it. I had just tried the Flying Fiddles palette from Adept and was so impressed by the formula that Adept Cosmetics was on my radar. And so I saw them coming out with this. I thought it was beautiful. I mean, these shimmer shades are, again, to drool and die over. And I added this into my cart, and I guess I use ShopPay for a lot of my stuff, but I guess this was like at the beginning of using ShopPay. I didn't realize that I had paid for it already. I thought it was going to the review section of the cart, and I accidentally paid for it. So I had the means. I was considering buying it anyways. It's just so funny that I just like, oh, I bought the palette. Okay. Like, I didn't realize that I had already purchased it. Not that. I didn't realize that I had purchased it, really. I thought I was going to the review portion. Anyways, though, whenever I got this in person, wow, it is beautiful. It is so beautiful. The shimmer shades in here, again, are just out of this world. They're so stunning. And I just feel like they did such an amazing job with the incredible just shimmer shades in here. I will say the mattes are a little bit tricky for me, especially when pairing with some of these shimmers. But I do think that a lot of the shimmers pair really well with purples. So I do think I can make it work. But it is kind of random to have this peach color in here, but regardless, one of my top colorful palettes for sure in my collection. And then finally, which is probably my favorite colorful palette, this one I used so many times. I feel like I used this one, I don't know, 5-6 times maybe, which I know that that doesn't sound like a lot, but for someone like me who has a rather large collection, that's actually a lot. So I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but my husband and I, we love to go to markets, especially during the fall season. They have markets all year long, but we like to go specifically to different horror markets. And this year in September and October, this was my palette of choice. Let me tell you, this is the Bella Beauté Bar Strange and Unusual palette First off, Beetlejuice came out this year. So not only was this just perfectly fitting and on brand for the season, but this was also perfect for the Halloween season. And this color story was basically what made me fall in love with Bella Beauté Bar. I think this was my first palette from them. I really wanted this one because of its uniqueness, and then I did go on to purchase 2 other palettes from Bella Beauté Bar, and this palette is what made me fall in love with them. I felt so confident playing around with this palette. I felt like I could create any types of looks that I wanted. I could play around with the reds, I could play around with the black, the dark plums, the vibrant green, the shifty shimmer shades in here, and everything would just blend out so beautifully. And so with that, I felt like Bella Beauté Bar was quickly going to become one of my favorite brands, and lo and behold, they are. But this palette was definitely one of my top palettes of the year, and it certainly was one of my top colorful palettes of the year as well, because I do think this one is overly colorful. All right, so then we have our top monochromatic category, and I don't know if this one really counts as a monochromatic palette, but I was struggling with this category. This is the Fantasy Cosmetica Druid palette. I love this palette because it is very green toned, and this does seem a little bit monochromatic to me. But what I love about this one is it's green, but it still has a neutral component to it. It's still going to have a little bit of a neutral feel to it, which I love. And I love the incorporation of the teal, and then of course the kind of like shifty blue-brown shade right here is so stunning. And Fantasy Cosmetica's formula is just so beautiful. It's so good. The mattes, again, can be a little bit drying sometimes, but I have, had overall pretty good luck with them. And then of course the shimmer shades are so stunning. So this one is a top monochromatic palette for me because this is probably one of my favorite green palettes within my collection. Green and purple are probably my favorite colors to wear on the eyes. That's not neutral, of course. And then this was a new brand to me this year, Gourmand Girls. They came out with their Peach Perfect palette. And again, I saw this release photo and I completely died over it. I was like, I have to have this. And first off, the packaging is, I believe, by Doodles by the Bunny, and it's super cute. And then here is what the palette looks like. So not super monochromatic, but there's clearly a theme going on here, right? You clearly have lots of peachy tones in here, and I feel like overall the theming is going to be very peachy, of course, right? And this one is so stunning. One of the most drool over shades is this one right here called Papa Don't Peach. It's so freaking stunning on the eyes. There were so many times, especially during the summer, whenever I didn't want to wear a lot of makeup, but I wanted to look put together and cute, I would just throw this shade and just throw it all over the lid and just like blend it out in the crease. Done. You know what I mean? Like, so stunning. And this color story easily had to make it in one of my top monochromatic palettes. And then lastly, in the monochromatic category, I have the Inslee Rain Cold Moon palette. Again, I don't know if this counts as monochromatic. I was struggling with this category, but this is a very cool toned palette. A lot of the looks that you get in this palette are going to be very cool toned, very gray, kind of mauve-y toned. So I felt that this could possibly be monochromatic. And wow, Inslee Rain's formula is so beautiful. The shifty shades are intense though, so please keep that in mind. If you're someone who you're not sure, if you will like, chunky shimmers or shimmers that are going to be very intense, maybe wait to try Inslee Rain and maybe start with Sydney Grace or even Fantasy Cosmetica, I think could be good. But if you are ready, you're like, let's go in with the most shimmery shades ever, then Inslee Rain, Bella Beauté Bar, those are great places to start because their shimmer shades are very impactful on the lids, but they are stunning. So this one had to go in my top monochromatic because it's one of the most beautiful cool toned palettes ever. So yeah, here we are. And then we have top small palettes. And I was really happy with this one because I filled this out the quickest. This was the easiest category for me to fill out. And that is because Firstly, I have this little elf quad. This is the I Love You, I think it's the I Love You a Latte quad. I use this so much this year, especially because I was using those more like colorful indie palettes where you're not always getting the crease shades and mid-tones that you need to create a full look. So I would pull out this elf quad and dip into these like two mid-tones here and just kind of start off my crease, and then that would give me the confidence to just like get going and start a more beautiful, colorful look. So this was definitely a top small palette for me this year. Another one that I actually used a ton this year, especially for work, is my Ruin 1111 quad. And this one looks, again, kind of like not much, but on the eyes, it's beautiful. The shades in here have so many different, like, not shifts, but like speckles of like other colors within them. And I could create a full look using this quad. And so what I would do is I would start off by putting like this deeper color in my outer corner, and I would use my fingers to do all of this. This deeper corner or deeper color in my outer corner, and then I would put this shade all over the lid because this is obviously the most beautiful freaking shade ever. And then I would go in with like this peachy shade and just kind of like dab it kind of above the crease because it would kind of look like it was transitioning into that peachy color. Just so, so pretty, you guys. And I loved having this, or I love having this as an option, especially for work, because there are so many times where I'm just like, I don't know which eyeshadow palette to go for. Do I even have enough time? And so this one has been a very nice, just like quick and easy pull for me this year. So definitely a top small palette for me. And then lastly, Urban Decay came out with this new Moon Dust quad this year, and this one is definitely a top as well. And this one is so stunning. I just got it kind of recently in the most recent Sephora sale, and I have used this so many times. Again, this is perfect to just kind of throw all over the lids and create a very quick, simple but beautiful, effortless look. And I mean, it's just stunning. So I have reached for this one a lot as well since getting it. Then we have top affordable palettes, and I struggled with this one too, especially because I don't have a ton of affordable palettes. Like, yes, I have a lot of color pop palettes, but not a lot of them are in my top. And then I love the mega palettes from ColourPop, but I don't really consider those affordable because they're about like $35. So I came down to these three. The first one is this one from LA Girl. This is actually a beautiful palette, and this is still available, so snag this up if you're interested. This is the LA Girl Eyeshadow Sunset Days palette in the shade Under the Sun. This reminds me so much of like kind of a mixture of like Urban Decay Moon Dust, but like Patrick Ta, but like Makeup by Mario, like those really nice toppery type of lid shades that everyone seems to be enjoying this year. That is what LA Girl did in here. The shimmer shades are just so stunning. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, like especially this one, it's so yummy. And the fact that this is super affordable at the drugstore, I think it's like $11 or $10, something like that. It's so good, and the mattes perform really well. So this is a really great drugstore option, especially for the types of eye looks that are really popular right now. And then I had to mention, of course, an oldie but a goodie. This is the Wet n Wild's Color Icon palette in Nude Awakening. This is just such a workhorse palette. I feel like if you are someone who is starting out with makeup, or maybe you have a teen that's starting out with makeup, but you don't want to spend too much on buying them some things, check out Wet n Wild's. They have so many great products, and I feel like Nude Awakening is a great palette to kind of have them start out with and like learn how to apply eyeshadow with, because I feel like pretty beginner friendly. Like, it's not too pigmented right off the bat, and of course the palettes are so affordable, and this one is a perfect everyday neutral palette. So I did want to mention this one because it's such a classic to me and to have in my collection. And then lastly, I mainly put this one in here because of the color story. This is the ColourPop 1111 palette. And the reason I put this one in here is because I feel like this color story is something that maybe like a high-end brand would put out. I think this one has been compared to the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes or the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. And so the fact that you have this more affordable option with this beautiful color story and the shimmers in here are really great. I've spoken about ColourPop and how I feel like their formula has kind of changed a little bit. This palette is really great and high performing. So this one is definitely one of my top affordable palettes for sure. All right, so then we have top indie palettes. So this is different than top colorful, right? So top indie, these are palettes that I feel like out of all of my indie palette collection, which are my top, and these are definitely it. Firstly, what came to mind so quickly is my Unearthly Cosmetics Fall Magic palette. This one is easily one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection. Every time I wear this palette on the eyes, I get compliments every single time. Like there has not been a time that I haven't worn this that I don't get a compliment. And Unearthly, their shimmer shades, they're not like Bella Beauté bars or Inslee Rains. They are very smooth, but they still have that really nice sparkle impact to them, but it's not gonna be thick or chunky like other brands that I just mentioned. And so I feel like this, again, if you're wanting to start out, I feel like Unearthly is a great brand to start out with because they have so many palettes to choose from. I would start with Fall Magic. Fall Magic is easily one of my favorite palettes in my collection. It's just so stunning, and every look I create with this palette is just so beautiful. So easily a top indie palette. Second in my top indie palettes is the Simply Posh Cozy Cabin. This, I don't know what it is, but it just holds such a special place in my heart, possibly because of the beautiful packaging. It's so nice and cozy, but then also because this is probably one of the best or most beautiful shimmer shades I've ever put on my eyes. They're just so stunning. I really need to pull this one out. I'm dying to play with like these periwinkles, but this one is beautiful. And heads up, they are bringing this one back, but they've taken the holiday piece out because they're trying to rush like the shipment of it and like the production of it and all of that. And so it's coming back. Stay tuned. I have talked about it in length before in my channel, so I want to mention that. But such a favorite of mine. It's so stunning, so beautiful. Again, I get compliments on this one as well. And then easily, maybe even one of my top palettes in my entire collection this year is from Bella Beauté Bar, of course, and it is the Poison Garden palette. Oh my God. Oh my God, this palette, it's so beautiful. So here's what it looks like. This could have easily been their Halloween release, but I think the Vamp palette was their Halloween release. And then here is the inside. I mean, this is stunning. This is beautiful. This palette, oh my God, it is just so beautiful. It is so pretty. I have loved every single look that I've created with this palette, and I have had a blast every single time creating looks. And every time I look in this palette, I just want to dip back into this and play around with it some more. I really want to play with these cobalt blues. I'm kind of thinking that might be a fun wintry look. We'll see. But yes, this is easily one of my top indie palettes in my collection, if not my very top indie. It's competing with Full Magic for sure. All right, 2 more categories. Now we have our top high-end palettes. And for top high-end, first off, we have the Urban Decay Naked palette. So Urban Decay re-released the Naked palette this year. How fun is that? And here's what the palette looks like in case you haven't seen it, which I'm sure you have if you're a makeup lover. But this palette was such a favorite of mine in high school. I loved it so much, and I was really, really sad that they discontinued it. And so I was so happy when they brought it back, and I purchased it almost right away. And it's still such a beautiful high-end palette. So this one definitely had to be in the top because of just how special it is, you know? And then I apologize, I have 2 Natasha Denona palettes. First off, the Natasha Denona Glam palette. This one is just such a workhorse. Again, it's such a classic. I feel like this one I still recommend if you are wanting to try Natasha Denona, but you're not sure which palette to get. This one, I feel like this one, as much as I love the I Need a Nude, I recommend this one because this is a really great shimmer formula and you have to be into kind of like toppery shades for the I Need a Nude. So that's why I would recommend this one. This one, while it looks cool toned, which it is, it's still very neutral. You can still get neutral looks with this one. You have a gold shade right here. You have these browns. You have rose golds in here. So this definitely does lean neutral as well as cool toned. So this one is just so beautiful and such a beautiful special occasion palette as well. And then a palette that Natasha Denona came out with this year that easily jumped in the rankings for me. It is just so beautiful and I feel like it really does complement my brown eyes. That is the Golden palette from her. This one is beautiful. This one kind of reminds me a little bit of Urban Decay's Naked Honey palette. I feel like this one is just like your classic gold palette. Like you have your golds, you have your neutrals, but, and definitely kind of warm toned, right? But it's still going to pull more gold, right? So it's gonna look very classic as far as like different eye looks that you could create, but also I can see this being a like holiday party type of palette because you have the golds. Just very beautiful. I feel like if you have brown eyes, this will really make them pop. So really love this one. I feel like every time I wear this palette, I just feel so beautiful and so confident because it does really complement my eyes for sure. Last category. And let me tell you, this was very difficult because this next category is top palettes from the year. So the year of 2024, these are my top palettes. But here's the thing, the Poison Garden palette could easily be in this list, right? The, what's another one? The Natasha Denona Golden palette could have been in this list, right? But because those were in other categories, I didn't want to repeat because that's no fun. But at least I got to feature them in another category, right? But for the top three in the new to me, or no, for the top three 2024 like palette category, I do have the Too Faced Aptly in Love palette. So this palette, first off, the packaging is very cute. I love that for them. And then here is what the inside looks like. It's so, so beautiful. I feel like with this one, it's not so much that I'm like head over heels for this palette. It's more so that this is the Too Faced formula that we all know and love and expect from these tin pan packaging palettes. The past few years, Too Faced has been messing around and not doing the tin pan palettes for the fall seasons, and it was just not great. The formula was not great, and I feel like there was so much to be desired. Then they brought this one back in this year, and I felt like Too Faced was just kind of like revived, if you will, for me, because this just brings back a piece of that nostalgia. But this is also a very high performing palette as well. I really, really enjoy Too Faced eyeshadow formula. I know that that's definitely probably in the minority, but I still think that they're a great formula. They're expensive and I don't think they're worth the price. However, I do think that they're a great formula that's pretty accessible. So this one is definitely one of the tops just because they went back to the tin pan packaging, they listened to us, and it's that really great Too Faced formula that we know and love. Then the next Natasha Denona palette that was released this year is the I Need a Warm palette. So this was kind of an odd release to me. I wasn't expecting this one. I feel like after I Need a Nude, I was a little bit confused as to why this one came out, and it followed the Golden palette almost immediately, which is very weird to me. But I feel like maybe people were wanting more of a warm toned palette from her, and this is the palette. It's very beautiful, so I'm not complaining. I also believe that she has incorporated some new formulas in here, which I love to see that. I love Natasha Denona's just makeup artistry. I feel like she's super talented and she does beautiful work. And so I'm always looking forward to seeing what she's going to come up with next. And I love that she experiments with new formulas. So this one was definitely a top because it is just beautiful. It's that classic Natasha Denona formula. And of course, it's another neutral palette from a favorite eyeshadow formula for sure. And then lastly, kick it off with an indie palette, or end it off with an indie palette, of course. Simply Posh Cosmetics did it again, and they released the Coastal palettes this year. Love the packaging. It makes me want to be at the beach. Missing the summer already, although let's not rush winter and fall and winter, okay? But anyways, Simply Posh Cosmetics, beautiful, beautiful formula. And this is a beautiful color story. It's giving me like summer and spring. I'm here for it. And I was so happy to have another Simply Posh Cosmetics palette in my collection because I was so impressed and pleased with the Cozy Cabin. So this one is definitely such a great palette. And the shimmers, oh my God, like look at the shade Serene, this one right here. Oh my gosh, like I just want to eat that. Like, come on. Anyways, last top 3 for this year. Okay, those are all of the categories. That was so much talking, but I had a blast. I love talking about eyeshadow palettes, and that's partly why I love It's Just Stuff, because I truly do feel that she loves eyeshadow palettes almost as much, or pretty much as much as I do. She may even love them more than me, but I love that she still talks about eyeshadow palettes, and that even though there's so many, you know, trends going around that eyeshadow palette is dead, or eyeshadow is dead, yada, 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 eyeshadow palettes are still alive and well in my heart, let me tell you. But anyways, let me know what are your top 3 palettes in each category. I will try to list down below the questions so that if you want to answer them in the comments, please feel free. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, I would love for you to subscribe and be a part of my YouTube channel. What? Also, I'd love for you to subscribe and be a part of my YouTube channel family here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye!